Hey, this is Frank
Okay,
Yosa,
now it's on.
CEO of KetoneAid, and I'm really excited to have on this podcast Paolo Salomon. And he is a master's category one cyclist, just so one notch below uh, professional level. And he is what I would consider one of our top number one ketone ester super fans, KetoneAid super fans. So he puts it on his own jersey, on his own accord, even helped us make some jerseys. And we're going to talk about
Hmm.
different protocols, what's worked for him, and because everyone's protocols can be just drastically different. So we're giving people different snippets of what has worked for different people and see if people can customize and pick their own protocol. So thanks for joining me.
No problem, Frank. No problem. As always, always a pleasure
All
talking to
right.
you.
So how long have you been using KetoneAid?
I'll say a little over a year and a half. I would say, or
Okay.
more than that.
I would have
Almost
thought it was more like 2 or 3, if not.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 years consistently. 2 years.
Okay.
Before I was taking, I guess, the so-called ketones before that, and then I started asking you questions about if I was taking the real ketones, and I came across KetoneAid.
Well, we can talk
That's
about that, and I don't mind dropping names. So, what company or what product were you using first?
I was using, everybody says the ketone IQ.
Okay.
Um, that's how I came about ketones actually, because they were all over social media and Facebook and everything about ketone IQ, and me being a huge Lance Armstrong fan growing up, so he was talking about it. I said, let me try this. So that's how the ketone journey started, and I would take it, and I mean, I guess it would give me a little boost, but it wasn't this thing that they were talking about that would work. And I did everything that they said. And then I came across, let me see, there's other ketones out there because I didn't know what it was. And then you would have, I think ketone is the first one I reached out to, and you were very helpful. You told me how to take it, what to do. And that's when I learned that ketone IQ wasn't a ketone ester. It was it wasn't a real ketone ester. And that the studies that they were using that I guess fell for, um, was based really on your product, but they were passing off as their own. And then I started reading about it, doing my own research, taking what you told me, and came to the conclusion: oh yes, that was missing one molecule, or it wasn't a complete ester. So
Yeah.
basically, and then you told me that it's the caffeine that works. So basically, it was just an expensive coffee
Right. Now,
that.
what I explained to you was that the reason you might have felt something was that all ketones, whether they're ketone ester or another type of ketone, will drastically multiply any caffeine that's in your system. So if you
Yes.
were caffeine free, I would have had a different explanation. I would have said, normally they come to me and they say they don't feel anything. What's going on? But you were already a caffeine drinker, so I was like, yeah, what you're feeling is the caffeine getting multiplied, which is why one of their drinks they actually have a caffeine version and they cut the active in half. So instead of 10 grams of their active ketone diol, not a ketone ester, they put in
Yeah.
5. They add caffeine, and that's what they give out at the races because they want people to feel it. They're just feeling the
Extra.
caffeine. They're not
That's why,
feeling the ketones.
like, how come I would take it and I would still get that same tired feeling after, and then you take another one, then you're wide awake again, and it wasn't what the product they said it was. And then I met you and you told me about it, but then I got more interested in how it worked. And that's how I came across KetoneAid. And the difference from the first time taking the KE4 compared to that was a big difference, because it gave me, how you say, not to use your marketing, but it gave me a good boost of energy, and there was no crashing. I would take it at night because I started playing around with the different protocols. He said it's good for recovery also, so I said let me take it at night. Even though I was nervous, I wouldn't be able to sleep because that's what happened with ketone IQ. This one I slept, actually had, if not one of the best sleeps. Like I woke up feeling fresh,
Right.
and that's what got me started into it. And of course, I've done different protocol. I tried experimenting with different protocols and all that stuff throughout this whole time.
And what was your
And I
experience? What was your protocols before any of these ketones? Were you a heavy, let's get as many carbs into the system as possible, or were you a carbs don't sit
yeah,
right with me, let me find something else? And so, did you transition or did you do the dual fuel?
no, as a cyclist, they teach you carbs. Carbs is the way to go. The reason why you bonk because you're not taking enough carbs. So I was a carb because they said take a gel every hour, even 30 minutes every effort. Take a gel right away. Um, did it work? Yes, it did work. I would say it did work, but then your gut would just be torn into pieces. You would feel this bloating after like a day after the race, and it was just. I feel like yes, you have to. I guess they do all this carb training to get your gut to take that many carbs. But to me, I think yes, do pro for the world tour. Do they do that? Yes, that's what they do. But to me, I felt like why would I want to sit there and be uncomfortable for a 3 hour, 4 hour race? It's not worth it. At the end of the day, you want to have fun while you're competing.
So when
You
you
know,
transitioned over to KetoneAid, did you cut out carbs completely during the ride, or did you try to use both and then transition
it is.
over to all
It is.
ketones?
I would, I would do it slowly. Let's say I would go on a 2 hour training ride, so I'll do a cap full of the KE4,
Mhm.
and then I would not feel hungry, but I would still have tons of energy. So I would pack the gels because you're so used to that.
Yeah.
But for hour rides, 3 hour rides, 4 hour rides, I would still feel good. I would still feel good. And the one thing that made me switch, which is because we were doing a ride. Of course, I had this mindset of after a hard effort, take a gel. So I took a shot, and then there was I guess a climb 40 minutes into the ride. And in my head, oh, I'll take another gel. I'll take a gel after, I'll keep me going. And it brought me back down to needing more gels throughout the ride.
Right.
So that part, and that's when I started asking, why is it doing that? And so now I got the timing down, which, I would just try to rely on the ketones the whole way. And that's when I met you in DC, that's when I learned more of it that on how it actually works and how it's better for you. And I felt better.
Well, so yeah, let's go over that. So you're trying to lower your carb intake, but you're still taking both, and you happen to be in the DC area right now. You're actually in Thailand. Where do you normally live? In
I live in New York.
New York. And you were in the area, and you came over, and we went by the
At the
fireplace, and
rate
and and
image.
went into the deep dive that we can talk about now, and people can see if it's something that they want to try, but it might be risky, too risky for people to, try something different. But if you're a little bit older and you're not necessarily competing professionally, or things aren't working well and you need to make a change, this is what we did. So I I, I actually gave him this new protocol for him to be the guinea pig of it, which is what like we'll come up with some fancy name, but short-term pre-race ketosis. How about that? Short-term
That's
pre-race ketosis.
what it
So
was
yes,
5 days,
so he was
40.
already I don't know if you were lower on the carbs in general or whether you did carb loading or whatnot just in your regular non-training time. But I said, hey, you've got a race in 4 days, and you were willing to already go just ketones, so no carbs. And we've had another podcast with a guy who's a 24-hour runner, no breakfast, only ketones the entire time. So this concept of, I need glucose or I need glucose, then the excuse is I need glucose to go fast, as a, implying that he was going below threshold. But carbs were not necessary for him. And you were doing a 3.5, 4 hour race. And I said, hey, let's try something new. Let's try not only ketones the entire ride, which would have been, I think, new for you. Let's go full keto right now, today, starting today. We actually had some hard ketones um,
Yeah.
that night as a relaxant. And the
Yeah.
next morning, I think you sent me a photo. It was just eggs from the hotel, and you went keto for the next 3 days. And the idea was to do two things. One, to have endogenous ketosis, so your body's already kind of burning and,
Mhm.
and making fat itself. So you have burning fat and making ketones. So you have like a baseline of ketones. But the other
Mhm.
advantage, which I knew was going to happen, but I didn't tell you about it, I did say make sure to increase your salt load big time. But what I knew was going to happen is you were going to lose a lot of weight, very rapid
Oh,
weight loss. And that is
yes.
water. People think that it's, they love the diet because they're losing weight. No, they're not really. It's not real weight. It's water weight because every
Yeah.
molecule, non-scientific, every molecule of glucose holds on to three molecules of water. So your blood glucose drops, you drop a lot of water, and boom, you were 4 pounds lighter at the beginning of the race. So
Oh,
tell me about the 3 days, the 3 days leading up to it and race day when your buddy was like, where are all your gels? And you're like, yeah, I've got my ketones. And he's all scared for
yeah.
you.
It
So,
was. I mean, I went in there just because I trusted what you said. I said you've never steered me in the wrong direction. You're giving me choices on how to do it, what to do. I said, let me try this. I've never tried it, and it was my first time racing after having two hip surgeries. So I said, I'm willing to try anything because I've raced for so long. I said, you know what? Maybe let's try this because we're not fully into the race mode yet. We're slowly going back in. I said, let me try it. And I said, okay, let's give it a shot. So, of course, and the funny part, like, speaking of Ketone IQ, they were giving him out at the race, in the beginning of the race. And so it was actually kind of funny. And I was like, oh, and I told a friend of mine, oh, they want to give you some caffeine. Just to let you know, don't take it because it's gonna constrict your blood vessels more. He's like, huh? I said, that's what caffeine does. I learned that in general. I'm like, oh. So I said, well, you take it if you want to. So, but I told the guy from KetoneAid, and the lady, you know, I guess the girl looked at me like, "Oh, can't talk to you then." I was like, "Okay." So we were going, and it actually started really good. I felt light. It was
well,
really,
let's
really
let's
good.
talk
So,
about the 3 days leading up to it first. Going full keto or at
yeah.
least super low carb. I mean, you weren't testing your blood ketones, but what was that like? Not loading up on carbs the day or two or three before a race. Like that for people is just, mind blowing.
No, to me, I've always been not a big carb guy.
Okay.
Really, I load up a lot on carbs every day. Do I love bread? Yes, I do love bread. But the way I looked at it, if I wasn't training, I wouldn't eat that much carbs. If I was training more, I would eat more carbs. I would eat according to my activity level, per se.
So you,
That's
so
what
you
I would.
went keto. Did you increase your salt load to make sure that you didn't, go into the keto flu?
The salt load, because remember I texted you. I said, "Why am I having to go to the bathroom almost every hour, every 2 hours?" I'm like, "What's going on here?" And my worst fear was having to cramp up. Let's say at mile 50. That was my worst fear. I mean, that was a little apprehensive about that, but then I figured, you know what? I'm taking salt. I got electrolytes, sugar-free electrolytes. I'm not worried about that. So that got through that, but I wasn't. I felt light, and I woke up every day feeling fresh. I was still doing short rides here, and I was still doing like a 1 hour ride, 2 hour rides with no carb, just to get my body used to it, and it felt fine. I
And
mean,
then,
yes, my mindset was still, oh, I should have a gel.
right.
So I was trying to get out of that mindset, even though I really thought I would have no energy, even those 2 hour rides. I
And
did
and I thought I guess you had not done some training rides that were longer with ketones only, so you went straight into a race, ketones
done,
only.
I've done 3 hour rides with only ketones.
Okay,
I've
okay.
done
So you
four.
had some experience. Okay.
Yes, but I wasn't full keto.
You
I
weren't
was still,
pre-keto. You didn't do that pre-prep. We
I
took
didn't,
it to the
I
next
didn't,
level. Basically, you were doing ketones and glucose with regular, glucose-based diet. And then step one was we removed your glucose from that just workout. That worked well for you. You're like, huh, I do have energy. I am able to keep the same watts and not be sore the next day. And then we
yeah,
transitioned you to this next step, which was doing this, 3, 4 day targeted pre-keto, pre-race event and
yeah.
said, "Hey, let's try it out." And okay, so game day. Tell us the story of your friend with all the gel
All that,
packs and
but I was crazy. It was, you're going against the grain. And I said, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. I've tried that system. Sometimes I told him, you won't get somewhere without trying out different things. And then he was like, okay, we'll see what happens. And I said, all right, we'll see. And during the race, when we got off, I felt good. I was only doing 5 mLs before training sessions, and 5 mLs before I go to bed.
And also, did you do breakfast? Talk about did you go into the race fasted or not? And if you change that.
I went to the race fast. I took your advice. You said, because you said, if you eat food now, it's not your body's not gonna process to be used. So you
Hold on,
go
I
fast.
thought you said you had breakfast and your first half of the race was actually not as good, and then it kicked
No,
in.
I did have eggs. I did have two hard boiled eggs, a little bit of hard boiled eggs with salt. I think I was loading up on the salt because I was still apprehensive about losing that much water. I was like, this
Yeah.
is a little harder. It was new for me. I was
Right.
like, this
Well,
is
anyway, because after that, we then tweaked it and said, hey, drop the eggs. You want your body to be making some baseline
yes,
ketones, and those eggs aren't going to turn into energy in time for your
yes.
race. So all it's doing is more weight, more energy of your body going towards your eggs to break down the eggs for what purpose? For you to have, lunch or dinner, to be, what's the purpose? Yeah.
The beginning of the race, we were going. I was going pretty good. I was the front group easily. I was like, oh, this is not bad. And after the first hour, people was taking the gels, and a buddy of mine was like, "You really doing no gels?" I said, "Look, I'm relaxing here. I'm at 200 watts. I still feel good. I'm on zone 2, zone 3, not even zone 3 yet." And then so the next hour, I said, I'm gonna try to make a little bit of move. Started moving. So by the third hour, I was like, maybe I should pop, because I had those little ketone shots.
Yeah.
I had the ketone shot. So funny part, it was a mile 60 something, 65. It was a 94-mile race. So I'm sitting there opening the bottle, and he was like, "You're really doing no carb. You're really doing this." I said, "Yeah, there's 35 miles to go. No big deal." So I, prepping it, opening, just getting it ready, putting it back in my pocket. But I was with the front group the whole time. And then this is when I guess, I guess I freaked out because of everything was going on. Because it was all new. When I took the ketones, like, I guess a couple of minutes later, my heart rate went down. So, and that I wouldn't say that caused me to drop back, because it was on my own doing, because mentally I was still in the old mentality of take a carb, what's going on? Because carbs are so predictable of what it was doing. You take the carb, boom, you get the energy. But this one, my heart rate went down.
But you're at the same watts. I mean, that's the thing. Usually,
So it freaked me out. I'm like, what's going on here? I'm thinking, is it my heart rate monitor? Is it my computer? Is it the ketones? So instead of being concentrated, you know what? The sip and the if everything was all the same, I would have just pushed through it. I would have pushed them, but just keep going. This is except since it was a new protocol. I'm like, why is my body? I got so consumed. I thought about it later. I got so consumed mentally why that happened instead of focusing on the race. So that's what killed me more. I'm like, what happened here? Because as soon as I guess I got over mental. I looked at those charts for weeks. I'm like, what's going on here? I tried to do it all the time. I tried to do it. I tried to mimic it so many times. And I guess one time it did happen a little bit. And I said, I think it was a 10, probably 10 beat drop. But I just pushed through, went back to normal. So I think that's what happened. My mentality shifted from worrying instead of like, what, this is normal. This
even though
actually,
it's actually a good thing. Having a lower heart rate at the same watts means you can push it a little bit more if you want, and be at your normal heart rate, or maintain below threshold, so you're burning fat more, which allows you
yeah,
to, not bonk. Yeah.
actually a benefit instead of a hindrance to the
Right.
race, which even annoyed me after the fact. I'm like, you know what? I had more push now because my heart rate's low. I could even push it even higher.
Yeah. And you also had no
And
caffeine in the breakfast and in
no
the morning, no caffeine. Okay.
all in all, I took a 5 ml in the morning. I took the full bottle of the ketone shot, which is 2 shots in it,
Yeah.
and that's the only thing I had during the race.
Okay.
I
That's
mean, I finished top. I came out of the. I missed. the top 20, top 15 by I think 5
Well, you had a
minutes, and
flat tire. I mean, talk about the flat
that
tire. I mean,
and that flat tire at the beginning, I even chased back on with the flat tire, and I thought, and my buddy's like, "Oh, you're back a little bit." I said, "I'm coming back." Because you're really not, and he kept telling me, "Take a gel." I said, "I'm good, I'm good, I'm good," because I was able to get back on a little bit, so I was leading the second group. And then when I was leading the second, that's when it actually did happen, and I ended up missing the top, I think top 15 or top 20 by five minutes, which annoyed me because that's the time I spent freaking out.
right, right. And it would have made for a better podcast if you had won the race
Oh,
and
but
been like
no,
amazing. But you know that
no,
this is real life. This is real life. You had a flat tire and you tried
but
to,
then
get
I
back.
think, I mean, I was pulling the group for the next, I would say 20 miles. Nobody wanted to help, so I'm pushing almost, it was 40K about 25 miles an hour, and everyone's
So
riding behind.
so the full race was about 3.5 hours, and you did a small eggs a couple hours beforehand. You only did one capful of KE4 beforehand, and then the equivalent of two capfuls of KE4, which is the same as the full shot.
Yeah,
You took that at hour what? At hour two?
no, I took that at the 2 hour mark, 2.5 hour
Two,
mark.
okay, 2 hour mark, and that's when you had the blood.
Yeah,
Your heart rate dropped, freaked you out a little
yeah.
bit, and that was it. That was it the entire time. So
But then,
that's still on the low side. I mean, that's a very low use,
those,
economical, maybe even less expensive than the gels. Like on a cost per race basis,
because
you know,
each gel is to about 250, $3 a gel, $3
yeah,
a shot.
yeah. So it was
Oh,
actually less. So
and I just
so
said an
how
example. A
how have
buddy of mine,
you what would you have done differently as far as, breakfast, quantity, timing, and have you had any other races? What is your preferred,
I
or how do you tweak your own protocol from that race to where you're doing now?
going back to that Maryland race, I think eating before it did not help for sure because I felt sluggish, more sluggish than anything else.
In the first
In
half,
the
in the first part.
sluggish in the first hour, I guess till the first hour. Then by the first hour, after an hour and a half, I was moving. I was perfectly humming through the whole thing. I was at 90 cadence, easy 200, 250, easy. So I felt good. So I would have done that. And then what I would have done, I would have brought probably brought another half bottle of the ketone shots. And then I would have taken a half of another 5 ml of ketones probably after that hour and a half mark or 2 hour mark, and then another one at the 2:45 mark
Okay.
just to finish
Yeah, I think it
because I still
maybe the beginning 5 mLs might have been on the low side, or maybe the fact that if you removed breakfast, then the capful would have been enough for that first hour to be good because you got your baseline. Because your body's almost, we've had people say that it feels like they're changing gears, like they're still kind of running on glucose because of that meal, even if it's a higher fat meal. They're running on glucose, and then the body kind of has to like shift gears and be like, okay, well, now we're going to get our fuel over here. And then that was maybe the 1 hour mark when it started to transition.
I started to feel better, and then but now, and it's so funny because I came back to Thailand to start training again, and they had another grand final race. So I said, and my wife was like, "You want to sign up?" I said, "You're not really training that hard," and I said, "I could do it. I think it's not bad." I said, "I got ketones. I'll be fine." She goes, "You sure?" And I said, "Why not? What's the worst case that can happen?" Oh, and going back to the funniest part, the same friend of mine who was all about the gels and all these, and he had carb mixes in his water. His gut was not feeling good a day or 2 days later, and I told him, I said, I only finished 10 minutes behind you at most, and that's because I had a flat tire and I was chasing on. If I did not chase on, I'd have been right next to you, feeling good, eating dinner the next day or eating lunch perfectly. And so now going back now, fast forward. So we went back to Thailand in November, and I had 3 weeks notice for this race. And she was like, "You sure?" I said, "I could do it. I'm 72 kilos. I'm 72 kilos now. I'm back to almost 100% before I got injured." She goes, "Okay, we'll go for it." So it was I think it was an 80K race, 85K race. And this time I said, you know what? We're gonna go full keto 2 weeks before the race. Keto 2 weeks before the race. And then I said, you know what? We're gonna do 10 ml in the beginning that morning, 10 ml that morning. And then I'm gonna take 5 ml at the 60K mark if I need to, or 70K if I need to. And mind you, in Thailand, it was hot. So I was using ketones for the heat acclimation. I had
Yeah.
no problems with it.
And you're
So with
adding
this,
salt to your water, right? Just cheap,
yeah,
regular, sugar-free
yeah,
salt.
I'm adding salt to the water. I was using electrolytes, using the same exact thing, except this time, no eating, no eggs in the morning, nothing, no food. I was strict keto. I'll even show you the picture. I was leaner than ever before, and I felt good. And that's without hard training. I just came to this like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's have fun. And I ended up finishing what, top 20. And in Thailand, these guys are like, some of them are, I would say pro Conti level, which is one step below like the Sadal quick steps,
Right.
one step below. And I was top 20. And I mean, my age group, I think I was top 5 in my age group, which is 45 and up. And this time for this one, I said, you know what, I'm not gonna freak out. I'm gonna keep going. And I did not even no, I actually no more. I did take I had a half bottle of ketone shot. I did take it at the 65K mark because I know it's gonna be a sprint at the end because these were strong guys. I was like, okay, this is gonna be. Let me see a little bit of energy. And on top of that, finishing top 20, I had the wrong bike. I did not bring the right bike for the race, so I was racing on a gravel bike and their own road bikes.
Oh man, that's huge.
Yeah, and then I had road tires on them, so I had smaller gearing. But let me tell you, I felt good, and the only thing I need, if I had the right bike, I'd have easily been there. So on the sprint, that's the one thing. Well, two factors could happen, but I finished, I think, top 20 overall and top 5 of my age group. So it was an 85K race, and that was last minute. And that one I went keto 2 weeks, and I ate no breakfast the day before, then the morning before. So that was, I would say, the race that I'm like, wow, this is how it has to be done.
Well, let's talk about two
I,
things there. So one is, this being lighter, being 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds lighter, your watt ratio to, kilos versus watts just mathematically just drastically changes. You're just lighter. So that's one just huge,
Mhm.
huge advantage. Now let's talk about the sprints at the end. So there's a theory that went to some papers and they would say that it was ketones are glycogen sparing and whether you can take it to then sprint at the end. And I'm not so convinced that that's real. Some papers disproved it. I think it might be for some people not glycogen sparing, it's more glycogen blocking. So it blocks glycogen. So race strategy might have to change. So someone who is doing full keto, I don't know. I
Well,
don't know if they'll be able to sprint the
I,
same as somebody else. So your strategy needs to change. You need to be the crazy one that breaks out and they're like, oh, we'll catch him later, but then not catch him because your heart rate is lower and you're able to sustain the watts. And um,
I'm actually testing that right now, just because I think it might. I don't think it will drop your power. I can still, even though I weigh lighter now. I'm at 72. So I lost. I mean, I came from, after surgery, I was 92 kilos. I
oh
lost 20
wow.
kilos in a year. But that was through training and, using ketos for recovery to be able to train like almost 350 miles, 400 miles a week. I need something to recover. And that's how I actually, one of the biggest, if not, I would say the biggest benefit of taking ketones, recovery part. But I would say, because I weigh less, but I could still go easily over 1,000 watts.
Okay.
The one that did change though is my 3 minute power has gone up to 550. My 5 minute power is at 430. and my 8 minute power is almost still at 400 or 350, I would say. So I would say I gotta say my power output is a lot better over time now. Is that the best? I'm not sure if I'm describing it correctly.
Okay.
My 5 minute power or my 3 minute power has gone way better now.
But like
Way
the sprint for the finish line is usually more like 30-second, 1 minute power.
better, probably 20-second power.
Right. So I
So
mean, have you tested that? Whether that top speed might require more, glucose.
yeah, that I'm actually testing that now. I'm actually because right now I'm in Bangkok right now test because there's a cycling track here. So I'm at the track testing all these things out, trying to get my last things. Then I'm actually doing a lactate test on Wednesday also. I want to get down really. So I want to take all this. That's why I want to get things ready for the season if I'm going to go full time or, be selective. But I'm testing that now. I want to see if I can still get past 1100, 1200 before I got hurt.
Right. So
Low, less.
on your day-to-day protocols, as opposed to, going pre-race keto, you're not keto on a daily basis, right? You're not.
No, I still keep, I still keep a low carb, just low carb, once again, I base it all on activity level. I feel like because you don't need to eat that many carbs. I always said you don't need to eat a lot of carbs. Let's say you maybe you're more active during the day. Maybe I'll take in a little bit more carbs, but I'm not taking in like huge amounts of carbs every day.
And
I'm
now your
more
workouts are also fasted workouts with just a
yeah.
small amount of ketones beforehand. Do you take it afterward for recovery after the
I take
ride?
night.
Every night before bed? You're cutting out there a little bit. Did we lose you? He is in Thailand.
No, I'm saying as far as regarding carbs, I was never a big carb guy. So I would only eat carbs based on my activity levels. So if the more active I am, maybe the more I would eat carbs just to keep the calories up. So it was never really a carb person per se.
Okay.
So
Well, it's
it,
funny how
it wasn't a
yeah, it was funny how some professional athletes will actually do low carb during their training, multiple months of training because they understand that their watts might be lower, but they're still building muscle and they're still, building
Mhm.
their heart and they're able to train more frequently because there's less inflammation. But you're actually kind of doing the opposite. You're regular low carb, but still not even close to keto. And then getting a week or two before game day, you're going full keto. Now, one thing so my main suggestion tweak to your protocol is
Yeah.
I think you've only scratched the surface on the quantity that you can take. So I think you can try some of your longer rides, finding out how much is too much. Like what is the upper end? Now, it might cost, some more money to test that out, but then
Yes.
come game day, if you find that these higher quantities, work even better, that can take you up,
Hmm.
another notch. So I think you really have been at the absolute bare minimum, low end, and you might see a lot of potential going up. And if it doesn't help more, then great. Then you can, save a lot of money and be at the lower
You can lower
protocols.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I think as far as ketones, I think if you're keto, the gains you make while taking the KetoneAid just goes, it's more exponential than, let's say, if you were a carb person taking the ketones also. I think you will have better results on a
Well,
low
part of that
carb.
is part of that is because the ketones and the glucose kind of compete, especially if you're doing low
Yes.
dose. I think the carb people have found benefit, and I had one person who's sponsored by another, competing company try our stuff, and he was like, "Holy crap!" And he did it with glucose, but sometimes
Oh
if
yeah.
lower dose, you've got this, 5, 10 grams of active, and then you're competing with 300 grams of sugar, and the system is going to want to take this kindling, not this coal, slow burning, efficient
Yeah. So
fuel.
you guys got to find the right balance.
Right. Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
But it absolutely
Yeah.
works. much better when I talk to someone that wants to try it the first time. If they're already a fasted runner or cyclist, I'm like, oh, great. You add this to that, and this is a no-brainer. You'll get back to your baseline that you're, used to getting when you add glucose. It brings you back to that baseline. Now, the funny thing is there's a
Mm-hmm.
whole bunch of keto forums and stuff like that, or they're just keto riders, and they're time and time again when they hear about exogenous ketones, they are like, they have this pride of like, no, why would I buy ketones? I just make my
If
own.
your body makes it.
But it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a second. Imagine a glucose carb-based athlete saying, I'm not going to add glucose. I'm not going to add gel packs. I make my own. And it's just, it's exactly like that. It's just adding
The same
on top
concept.
of
Yeah.
what you're able to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But and also I was able to convert a couple of people into it now. I got a couple of friends that actually one friend who's very very into it now. So he's actually telling me when am I gonna go back to the U.S. when I'm gonna come back, because he actually swears by it now.
So what was his protocol? Did
So
he go full keto, or is he mixing it with carbs, or is he
well
keto just 3 days
he
before races?
he's actually he's a pro rider.
Okay.
He's the one I was telling you about. He was the Lao national champion, time trial champion, and he's probably ranked top 5 in Southeast Asia. He swears by it for recovery. He'll take like 10 ml before he goes to bed,
Okay.
wakes up, and so he
Okay.
swears by it for as far as recovery purposes. He swears by it
Well,
because
that is the
yeah,
low hanging fruit, less risk. That's
mm-hmm.
the least risk protocol is helping someone's sleep. So once he's seen benefits there, he might start trying also taking it immediately after the hard workouts as well. So there's an immediate after
No,
and
he takes it after the hard workouts because
okay,
being a pro rider, he has sponsorship obligations with the team does.
right.
So, but he does take it before and after. He actually posted a picture on it.
Oh, did he?
He won he came. I think he won the time trial, second place in the time trial, and he took it right after, and he did a road race the next day, and he
Great.
won back to back.
Nice,
So
nice.
he does. Yeah, so he won back to back. He
But
won the time trial. Then yeah. Go ahead.
is he too scared to try it actually in pre-workouts, fasted workouts? Is that just too risky when you're in season for some people?
No, I think I gotta ask him. I train with him now. He actually has me train. I know he takes it for recovery, but I think he takes it before he rides because he rides faster too. He rides at 5 in the morning like I do. But I know he takes carbs mid training session for sure. Because
Okay.
I rode it with him and I said so he does eat carbs, but I know he rides faster because he gets up at 4:30 in the morning and starts riding at 5. And he does take it after a hard workout if he has if he has ketones.
Right.
But he
So
will take
any
it. So
last, suggestions or protocol questions that you have for me of like what to tweak or change or suggestions for other people of, if they only have one or two ways to try it, what would be, the best way to give it their first test?
I would say the best way to take it is I would say just I would say dive right in because instead of hesitating, if you've been doing something, I would what's that saying? If you're doing the same thing over and over and you're expecting a different result, you're insane. So sometimes you got to go out of the box and you can't be afraid to try it because it will work. And you guys got to find the right protocol. And people get scared about, I say, don't be scared about ketones and don't be scared about being no carb. I was the same way for a long time.
So, but
And then now you realize,
how would they dip their toe into it? Because people want to quote unquote try it. You're saying that the try should be all in, pre-race, three
no,
day keto,
no, I would say,
or
I would say clear their mind about everything they've known, because if you clear your mind about everything you've known, it makes it easier. But I would suggest the best way, I would say take it 5 ml before the ride, and I would say after the ride, if you're training back to back. But I would say take the 5 ml before you ride, and you'll feel better. That's when I noticed the big difference. As soon as I did it fasted, I was like, wow, And here's the one thing I told somebody too. When you're taking ketones, you feel like you're never gonna bunk, or you feel like you're not gonna bunk. That's the feeling that I get.
All right.
If you know what I mean.
Well, thank
That's
you
the
very
one
much
thing
for
I feel like you're not gonna bunk.
thank you very much for sharing your story. And everyone's got to make their own protocol, find out what works for them. I'd like to say I've said this one thing that some athletes will take 10 years to figure out the size of banana for their marathon. Like, do I want a 5 inch? Do I want a 10
Yes,
inch? And then they expect this
and then
new novel changes everything food to just be stacked on top and it magically work. It's like, no,
no,
you got to figure it out.
and and the one thing I say, we gotta research it and try what works. And I gotta give a hats off to you, because you're actually one person that's easy to talk to. If I had a question, what's the best way to do it? What's this? I mean, not to trash the other brand. You email them, there's no answer, there's no suggestions. They just say, just watch this, just do this. With you, that's the one thing why I always say ketone has been good, because you teach people, you tell them what to do, not like other companies that who just mainly Ketone IQ, who doesn't even tell you what to do, how to do it. They say just take it. It feels like this, and I'm like, yeah, but it's not as easy as I would say, and as my experience. It's a very different product, and it's the most versatile product in general. That's what I tell people. It's the most versatile product. It has
All
the
right.
most uses and the most benefits.
Well, thank you very
All
much.
right, Frank.
Thank you for sharing what worked for you.
No problem.
All
Thank you
right.
for any time.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye bye.